Good evening and welcome to Western Reiki Association presents Reiki Currents, a Reiki News LIVE Talkshow, bringing you interviews with Reiki wisdom holders and stories of hope and healing from around the world. I'm Stephen Vandiver, your host. The focus on Reiki is to spotlight one of the world's fastest growing self-care, spiritual, and personal development tools. Everyone can learn this calming, relaxing, and healing technique and channel universal life force energy. As we come to know that our universe and everything around us, including our physical bodies, is made entirely of energy, learning to effectively work with this energy is key. Reiki is a priceless addition to your personal spiritual development toolbox. Our guest tonight is Walter Lübeck. Walter is the owner and founder of the Reiki Rainbow School, the Rainbow Reiki School, which he teaches in German and English all around the world. Traveling extensively since the 90s, Walter also teaches classes on Aura and Chakra Reading, Rainbow Channeling, White Feather Shamanism, Spiritual NLP, Three Rays Meditation, Meeting the Angels, Crystal Healing, and Astral Traveling, just to name a few. He's authored over 25 books, 9 of which are on Reiki and have been translated into more than 20 languages. He's produced training videos on Traditional Usui Reiki and Rainbow Reiki, software for spiritual counseling, and music CDs. Walter frequently appears on TV and radio shows and has written more than 200 articles about spiritual healing, herbalism, shamanism, Reiki, and other spiritual arts. He also has done extensive research on the history and spiritual background of Traditional Usui Reiki, traveling to Japan, Hong Kong, Bali, India, and Hawaii. Good evening, Walter. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you so much that you invite me. I'm very happy to have this opportunity to talk about Reiki,
Absolutely. Well, I'd love to start, with your journey to Reiki. What brought you to Reiki and how did that all come about for you?
Oh, well, that was in a way by chance, I was ill when I was in my mid-20s, and I was looking for some help to heal. And there was a naturopathic doctor who supported me very well. And in this practice, I came to know a Reiki certificate. It was just put to the wall, and I asked the natural healing doctor what this was. And he told me, well, I won't tell you about that. You just come to this class. It's in about 4 weeks here, and there will be someone from Frankfurt teaching this, and then you just come. It's great for you. At that time, there were just 2 books in German language around about Reiki, and you couldn't get them in the bookstores usually because people thought this is some weird stuff, and they didn't want to have this in their bookstores. So I was coming to this class and on Friday evening, and there were some very interesting people, like a woman who was producing her shoes by herself because she understood regular shoes as having negative energy. So she did her own shoes, which looked quite pretty. And then there were people who told me that they were in fact an ice bear and a penguin because they have had another class where they learned about what their true nature was and so on. So this was very interesting introduction to me to official esoterics. I'm with spiritual methods since my childhood, but until this moment, I had no idea that you could book a class and become a healer, with getting healing hands within 2 days or something like that. My idea was more countryside, I'm coming from the countryside. And so then I learned about Usui Reiki this weekend. And from that moment on, I treated everybody around. I offered my healing hands to everybody who had some problem. And it worked quite well. So I took the 2nd degree. And then I thought, wow, this works too. You can even do healings over the distance. And this made my motivation to become a Reiki master. And at that time, there were just 6 Reiki masters in the whole German language area, so you needed to know someone who knows where to go. So At that time, I spent about 2 years in training for becoming an Usui Reiki master. In 1989, I finished my training in autumn, and right after this, started to give classes.
Yeah.
I quitted my job, and I was going full-time Reiki.
There you go. There you go. No, that's great. Now, the Rainbow Reiki, the development of that school happened early on, and didn't that start with researching traditional Usui Reiki?
Exactly, Stefan. Exactly. It wasn't my intention to found a school. I just wanted to know more about Reiki and to help better, to serve the people better who came to me. And so when I got the first degree of Reiki, I started to try things out, like placing crystals under my palms when giving Reiki, or that I tried some yoga positions for meditating with Reiki and so on, and had great results. Then what also motivated me to go on researching about Reiki was the fact that there were not much information at that time available. And often Reiki worked well, but in some cases it didn't. So I wanted to find out what made the difference. Because in my understanding, if something works, miraculous sometimes, then there must be a way to make it work like that in other cases as well. And I found out that it's important that you drink enough water, for example, and that you have enough vitamins in your body. So Reiki can use this to create health out of this. Then I learned about how people reacted to Reiki in different ways. And I understood that the inner child, the body consciousness, was pulling in Reiki. And if I talk with the inner child, if I do certain energy work to just motivate the body consciousness to put in more Reiki, then healings work much better. So this was the start of the development of Rainbow Reiki, but at that time I didn't call it like that. So about in the midst of the 90s, I started to call my school Rainbow Reiki because I didn't want it to be misunderstood as the regular Usui Reiki. It was quite different at that time in the way that I expanded what I had learned, but I didn't change it. I just expanded on it.
Yeah, and I'm sure I've read some of your books, and with the research in the traditional Usui Reiki, and can you explain about that? Because I believe that there are a number of individuals out there that have come down the Takata line, right?
Yeah.
The westernized. And now, is that considered traditional Usui Reiki with all the changes she made to it, or is traditional coming the other way?
That is a very good point you made, Stefan. It's for me, it's very difficult to make a definition of traditional Usui Reiki, because if you look around to the content of the classes, then you see that the content of the classes is quite different, and all is called traditional Usui Reiki. Today, we know much better what Usui did, what Hayashi did, what Takata did, than in the 80s and the 90s and even in the 2000s, because there has been a lot of research about that. But we have a very broad variety of healing arts which are called traditional Usui Reiki. So that would be another reason why I wouldn't call my school traditional Usui Reiki, but I'm coming from the Takata line. So my lineage in Western Reiki is Usui, Hayashi, Takata, Furumoto, Brigitte Müller, and then me. Later, I did also a Jikiden Reiki training in Kyoto with Shioko Yamaguchi. But what I want to emphasize is that there are a certain key points in my understanding which are necessary to be fulfilled if someone does Reiki as something coming down from the Usui lineage. And these certain points are a special way of initiation, and initiation at all, of course. Then the symbols. and that you have hands-on healing or distant healing, then also the 5 principles. Well, and the rest is very, very different. Mm-hmm. But this is, I think, something good, mostly. Mm-hmm. Of course, a problem is that there is no quality control. We don't have usually some tests people have to pass before they teach Usui Reiki. In Rainbow Reiki we have this. Rainbow Reiki is a protected system. The main terms are trademarks in Europe and other countries, and we have an ongoing education program. We have networking. We work a lot together, and we have standard teaching materials and so on. But in the 90s, it wasn't like that. Mm-hmm. In the 90s, everybody said traditional Usui Reiki, but what they did was a broad variety of things which were only loosely connected. So, and this is a major reason why in the mid of the 90s, I called my school Rainbow Reiki, to just make a difference. And also one of my books where I wrote about my discoveries is called Rainbow Reiki in English and German. In this book, for example, is a method where people are able to produce any kind of vibrational medicine with just the means of traditional Usui Reiki 2nd degree. So you can produce your own, let's say, spiritual homeopathy or flower essences, angel essences, star essences, dolphin essences, whatever you want. It's right there for you as soon as you have 2nd degree of Usui Reiki and you get the book, then you can go on producing vibrational medicine.
That's beautiful. That's on my wish list, on my Amazon wish list. So we'll get that going. Now, around in that time frame, you also, as part of the curriculum, as part of the Rainbow Reiki School, along with the curricula and everything, there's symbols, and what are all the components to it? I would say, we do have a worldwide audience here, but primarily in the U.S. and familiar with some of the schools here.
Yeah, that's right. I know some schools like that of William Lee Rand. Mm-hmm. I have been a keynote speaker on his international Reiki gatherings in the beginning of the 2000s. And so I know pretty much people in the Reiki community in the United States and around. There is also the Karuna Reiki, which William promoted. And of course, then you have a lot of, let's say, lineages which were using Reiki and adding a lot of on top of this. Mm-hmm. So today it's very difficult to really make a proper definition of the whole bunch of things which are, let's say, coming out of the Usui Reiki heritage. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there are a lot of Reiki schools, and I appreciate that very much because the variety helps more people to get connected to that wonderful healing energy. And what I personally wish for the Reiki community in general is that also there will be quality control and kind of ongoing education and teaching standards, because then we will be soon in the same league, so to say, like yoga is today, or Tai Chi Chuan, or Qigong. That's what I want. Mm-hmm. I want Reiki to be recognized as what it is, a wonderful healing art for also professionals and lay people, but which is taught in high standards. Mm-hmm. And in Qigong and yoga and Tai Chi Chuan, there is no problem with a variety of schools. They have hundreds, if not thousands, of different schools. And that's great. So what we need in the Reiki community is that we go on being creative, finding solutions for health problems, and that at the same time we have a fundamental of, quality control and teaching standards and so on, like any other profession. That's what I want.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, let's get into the nuts and bolts of the Rainbow Reiki School. How many levels? What's the process? What's included? What's involved?
Yeah, well, you see in Usui Reiki, usually you have 3 levels. Sometimes the master level is split in 2, but usually it's 3 today. In Rainbow Reiki, we have also first and second degree, but then on the level of the second degree, we have about 20 different classes with more symbols, mantras, initiation, mudras, which provide a vast variety of knowledge about hands-on healing, about very concrete healing methods, like for the spine, like for allergies, like for hip correction, and so on. But also, we have classes about meditation, working with the body of light, doing clearings with the help of Rainbow Reiki methods I have developed. So we have a really big bunch of healing methods which are on the level of second degree. Then we have 3 master levels. It's first dan, second dan, third dan. The first dan level is able to teach 5 initiation classes, which are first degree, second degree, and the classes Rainbow Reiki, Parents and Children, Rainbow Reiki, Loving Relationships, and Rainbow Reiki, Professional Calling. That you are able to develop a spiritual path out of the work you do. And then on the second dan, there are lots of other classes which are able to being taught, like Practitioner 1, Practitioner 2, working with the body of light, Rainbow Reiki clearing, the Rainbow Reiki Feng Shui, the Dainichi Nirai Kido, which is a very special inner energy work with Reiki based on Japanese tradition, and many more. The second dan also is able to train first dan. The third dan can teach the whole system. And at present, there are 4 people who can teach the whole system. Next year, I will start another run training third dan masters, and then there will be about 24 people more who are able to teach the whole system. So in Rainbow Reiki, we have not only more symbols and mantras and certain mudras, but based on them also methods which give concrete results, like hip correction, like allergy deletion, like regeneration of tissue. And my aim is to help people to heal with energy in a very concrete way, so that you don't get good results by chance, but you have a method which you know works under certain circumstances for this kind of problem. So I train healers to be usable for everyday life problems. And my wish is that there will be a competent healer in every street, in a couple of decades, because I think we need that. I don't know how the system is in the United States, the health system, but in Germany, it's like that. It's getting more expensive every year, and it gets less efficient every year too. So we spend a hell of a lot of money for a lot of stuff which makes us ill.
Yeah, pretty much the same,
More than
I think.
50% of the ailments today are from treatments people get.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same here. As costs going up, and it's really kind of a mess. So, knowing that we can positively affect our health and be healthy with the Reiki is very, very important.
Yeah.
So now with the Rainbow Reiki, there are a lot of these different specific methods for specific ailments. That reminds me of Hayashi's manual when Sui asked him to further the work. He took it on like a doctor would, I suppose, and was very specific. Is your specific healing methods kind of based on that type of?
Well, no. I studied the work of Usui and Hayashi a lot, and I worked together with, for example, my friend Ajava Peta, who did a lot of research and in Japan and lived there for 12 years. I respect the methods of Usui and Hayashi much, and today we can do better. You see, Usui had 4 years developing his system. Then there was Hayashi, and he had a couple of years more. But now we have different challenges. At the times of Usui, the problems with vaccination, with heavy metal intoxication, with cancer, with electromagnetic radiation, were virtually not there. We didn't have these things. We didn't have all these pesticides and so on. So today there are a lot more and different challenges for the public, and also the spiritual healers, I think, need to adjust to this. So Usui and Hayashi based their treatments mainly on the meridian system, on the chakra system, and on reflex zones, and a little bit on inner energy work. Usui did a lot of breathing methods and stuff to build up the energy. Now in Rainbow Reiki, we do different. See, I did a lot of research about why do the Usui symbols do what they do? Is this really Reiki when you use a power symbol or a mental healing symbol, or is this Reiki plus something? Now, what I found out is Reiki is a non-polar energy. It's neither yin nor yang. While the yin-yang symbol explains everything in the world, you would like to know, as a Reiki healer, do I find Reiki in the yang area, in the yin area? Because this gives specific qualities then to Reiki. But Reiki is being pulled in, and it just promotes the process of life. So it is not acting like a yin or like a yang energy. So I found out that Reiki is where yin and yang come together. It helps yin and yang to interact healthily. And this is what I also learned when I was traveling Hong Kong and was visiting Qigong masters over there. See, I'm doing martial arts since the age of 8, and I had a lot of contacts to the Asian world due to my martial arts training. And many people who do martial arts, they also do Qigong. And in China, you know Reiki as Ling Qi. It's the same kanji, but they pronounce it Ling Qi instead of Reiki like in Japan. Now, the Qigong masters say that when you build up Ling Qi, Reiki, then you invite the Shen Qi, the divine Qi. So they don't say Reiki is divine Qi, but Reiki is like someone who enables the body, the mind, the energy system to call in the divine Qi. This made me think. So I found out that the Reiki symbols are focusing Reiki on certain parts of the interaction of yin and yang, and this is how they produce these effects. Now, due to my memories of former lives, I claim that I'm able to remember lots of former lives going back to ancient Lemuria 12,000 years ago, where I did a lot of similar things like today. And when I did healing 12,000 years ago, of course, we used symbols and mantras and mudras and so on. So I was just using a couple of the things which I had already used for my healing many lives before. Today, I integrated this into the Rainbow Reiki system. And so it's easy for me to focus Reiki on very specific areas of yin-yang interaction. So we are able to create, for 50 people in a room within 1 or 2 minutes, hip correction or atlas vertebra correction or allergy deletion and many other things more, which sound like miracle healing. But it's not really a miracle because you can explain it. You can understand why it works like that. This is another aim I have, that I do research about why does spiritual healing work. So I'm very familiar with the latest scientific research, and we have a lot of this during the last 15, 20 years, where the scientists explain why spiritual healing works and how it works. And we have authors like Lynn McTaggart, for example, or Bruce Lipton, who give us insights into what's going on within the body, and so we can explain how miracle healing proceeds. I use this knowledge. I do extensive research in the energy area. I'm clairvoyant. I can see auras and chakras, so I can see the effects of what I do directly. And I put what I understood into my system. So we are also using chakras and meridians, but what we do mostly is we focus on the very specific interaction of yin and yang and place our Rainbow Reiki symbols at those areas where we want to have a certain effect. Like there are access points, so to say, for hip correction, for joint correction. And if you use a symbol which is directly in resonance to that point, you can, with one point, adjust lots of different muscles without even touching the person. By distance, I could do this, from here to your place, or to Japan or China, whatever you want. And so we do things, let's say, in the spirit of Usui, but we develop this much further. It's like the Ford Model T and a today's car.
Absolutely. Now, as far as the Reiki research, wasn't there a Dr. Ignatov who did some studies on, and you were part of that study. Can you talk about that a little bit?
That's right. I started to do scientific documentation of Rainbow Reiki in 2012 with Professor Ignatov from Bulgaria. He specialized since more than 20 years in research of spiritual healers and psychics, and since 2008 also on Reiki. And we traveled to the lab of Professor Ignatov, and we did also a lot of distant research about what we do. And so I have lots of scientific documentation about the concrete effects of a Rainbow Reiki treatment. For example, Maya Saji, which is a method which is part of the training program of first degree, where you can set up a whole body treatment, including special positions, within about 2 or 3 minutes. Then it works for exactly 20 minutes without you having to do anything. And you can even do this by distance for many people at the same time in the first degree. And I had great results from this procedure with, for example, an elderly woman in the midst of the 70s. She suffered from a chronic illness, and you see in her aura that there is not much biophotons there. It's dark, it's broken aura. And after 20 minutes, you have a very bright aura, a closed gestalt of the aura of the thumb, and lots of biophotons which show that her system starts to work again. So we cannot directly derive from these pictures any medical effect, of course. And what I want to emphasize, we do not want to substitute medicine. We want to add on. We want to do what is left when the medical doctors of school medicine have done their work, and then there is a rest. And this is what we do, where we specialized in, to make the healing complete. So we do not want to replace official medicine. We just want to add this. And what I learned from the research with the Professor Ignatov was also that me, as a healer, I receive lots of energy. Even if I just set up a Marinasagi 2 minutes, then wait for 20 minutes, I receive so much energy that my aura gets much stronger, much more colorful. Then we did research about distance. So I know that we can transmit these healing vibes through many thousands of miles, and we can transmit this through a Faraday cage. You know, a Faraday cage is like a box made out of metal, and within this box you place water which is deionized, where you don't have any current on the surface. So these little insects who run over the water, they would just dive because there is no no surface they can walk on. This special water, when it's treated by psychic healers, by Reiki healers, gets into an ionized state again, and you can measure how much and other specific values. And what we found out that we can transmit with Rainbow Reiki through the Faraday cage, because we can ionize the water within, and it stays for 5 months. So for 5 months, you can measure the healing energy we have put into the water. This is, for me, it's a true miracle. Yes. How is it possible to bring something inside a Faraday cage and make it stay for 5 months? That's incredible.
That is amazing. Holy cow. You had mentioned earlier about this miracle healing, and can you talk a little bit more about that? How that comes about for you?
Yeah. You see, miracle healing for me is not that we are able to heal everything, everyone. That's not possible. That would be unreal. But miracle healing for me is that we are able to do healings which cannot or hardly be explained by today's science. Science today has developed so far that it can study the effects on the human system when there is a spiritual healer at work. What science cannot do, show directly what is done. It can show the effects. So for me, miracle healing is we cause an effect. We can cause this on purpose. We can show the effect even in a scientific way, but we cannot understand how this is done. So that's miracle healing in my understanding.
Real good. Now, one of the other schools, the crystal healing that you do, could you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, sure. So one thing is that a crystal is a part of sacred geometry. So it shows the divine order, which is in the spiritual realms through the structure of the crystals. And when these crystals are in the earth, they have a great connection to their brothers and sister crystals. This is what makes them very strong. Now, when they are dug out of the earth, then they lose a lot of energy. And in my school, there are methods how to activate the crystals and make them part of the surface spiritual energy grid on planet Earth, so they become strong healers again because they are connected to the surface network of spiritual energies. Then what I do is I teach people how to do astral crystals, how they can produce any kind of crystal in an energetical way and use this as a real crystal. Then we also do crystal grids. I have developed methods how to activate crystals so they become more resonant to each other. When you set up a grid, then the grid becomes much more powerful. We are also working with 3-dimensional astral crystal grids, which then enable us to rebuild structures within the chakras, which have karmically being misplaced, so that there is a damage in these chakras or meridians from former lives, for example. And when you have 3-dimensional crystal grids made out of astral energy crystals, then you can rebuild these energy structures so the karmic problems are gone. Then there is an initiation method that people can project crystal energy out of their hands. So these are some of the highlights.
And so is the crystal energy that comes out of the hands, is that different than the Reiki energy?
Oh, yes, of course, because crystals don't do any Reiki. The crystals have a very specific energy, and you might know books by Melody, for example, who cover the broad variety of crystal healing energies. And the crystal energies are always something which is polar, so that you can understand crystal healing energies like yin and yang, like 5 elements, so you can make a proper definition of what they exactly do and what they cannot do. For example, the ruby is a crystal which really drives the inner fire up, while for example, a magnesite is calming you down. So they have very specific ways to interact with a human being. And so we can add a lot of different healing properties to our Reiki practice by just adding the healing vibes of specific crystals.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Now, another school that you have so many, but I earmarked the ones that I'm most interested to find out about. Spiritual NLP. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, NLP was founded in the 70s and 80s by Bandler, Grinder, and later Dills, and then of course many others in the 90s. And I love the approach of NLP, that you can change the ways the subconscious works by talking and by visualizing. And in NLP, they do this in a very profound and structured way.
Yeah, and let's just so the audience knows, NLP is neuro-linguistic programming, just in case.
Right, exactly, neuro-linguistic programming. So what NLP lacks, in my understanding, is the guideline for personal development. So if you want to develop your personality, in usual NLP, in normal NLP, it's that you ask your client, what do you want to achieve? Of course, this question is also valid for the spiritual NLP, but then we have a set of principles, like Usui's 5 principles. We have a set of more than 20 principles as guidelines for the spiritual NLP, which enables us to check whether what the client wants makes sense for his long-term happiness and success. 3 of these keys I want to share with you. It's consciousness, so that people get conscious about what's going on inside and around of them, so they can understand it. Then it's personal responsibility, that I declare myself responsible for what's going on in my life. And it's love. So if these 3 principles are at work, you could assume that what you are working on will be in line with the divine order, and so life is having your back. The universe has your back and will promote what you do. It will support what you do, so it's easier for you to achieve things. While if you lack one or more of these 3, then you are swimming against the flow of the river of life, and this is hard to do, and it will be very time consuming and consume a lot of energy. So it's not something I would really recommend. Another thing which we do with spiritual NLP is we use the ancient methods of the Australian Aboriginals, which who were able to walk the land and read the land. And by reading the land, the spiritual patterns of the land, they can heal themselves and others. So I use this, structured this, and put this into my system, that people can walk through a certain room, by doing so changing their idea of things, their perspective, and getting healing. This really appears like magic, because you just see 2 people walking through a room talking a little bit, and after about 10 or 15 minutes, some really deep stuff is just released. So this is in short what I do with spiritual NLP.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I also would like to hear about the White Feather Shamanism School. Talk about that.
Yeah, White Feather Shamanism. My approach to life is the path of the great goddess, so the mother of life. I understand that we are connected to the universe, to the creator, via the great goddess, the mother of life. And the mother of life is also giving us the means to connect to the other beings around and to the spiritual beings via ritual, via trance states, via energy work. Now, the White Feather Shamanic School focuses on practical shamanic knowledge to get aware of the nature within and without, and removing blocks against being who we are. You see, in the Western world especially, people developed during the last 2,000 years a lot of very funny and, well, risky ideas about what life is and how they should go on with their life. Like that the mind is everything, the body is nothing. That it would be a good idea that you don't live in the material world, you just should be in a spiritual world. That things like sexuality are no good, that it's not good to enjoy life here, and so on. This is something coming from the patriarchal religions, the male energy-dominated religions. While before this was there was a kind of understanding that people are part of nature, that humans just belong to nature, that we should not reign nature. Are we really that wise that we are able to govern the whole world? Well, we had much opportunity to do this, and see what we have done. We ruined our surroundings, we put a lot of toxins in the air, in the waters, and so on and so on. So, White Feather Shamanism is about readjusting to nature, understanding nature as a friend, not as a foe, and learning from nature, doing energy work together with nature, getting into resonance with nature, being a part of nature and a part of the circle of life. And this brings me to the idea of the soul family, because that is one very important thing we promote with White Feather Shamanism, that you understand that there are others around, like people, but also like animals, like plants, like even angels, light beings, minerals, crystals, which belong to your field. The more you attune to that field, the more you become spiritually empowered. So you are more able to help yourself and help others. So White Feather Shamanism is about your spiritual family and getting empowered by joining this spiritual family. We have a kind of principle that the forest is always more happy and healthy than the single tree. So this means we work together. We are not for, being competitive. We just want to join, to get into resonance with our hearts and work together for the higher good. There is a special ritual we do for this. It's combined with a song, which I like to sing for you and your audience.
Yes.
And maybe that people like to join and like to sense the great circle we have now, where a lot of energy and information is just passed on from one to the other. Love just flows out of my heart, it flows to you. Love just flows out of my heart, it flows to you. Love just flows out of my heart, it flows to you.
Beautiful.
So that's what we do.
I love that. That's excellent. And so how, and there's a number of other schools that you have as well. Like if someone says, hey, Walter, teach me all you got. Is there a way to incorporate all this, or do people have to kind of pick and choose the different schools that you have, the different classes?
Well, I teach everything which I can do. So my aim is that people are also becoming an exceptional healer like I am. I'm in the top 5% of the close to 3,500 healers which have been researched by Professor Ignatov. And people can study the program of a school, or they can pick classes. For many classes, there is no prerequisite. For other classes, you need to have been in basic classes, so you know the procedures and have been initiated to basic energy work. But I also work a lot in the internet, so there will be classes about how to be successful with your Reiki practice, and also how to help animals and the humans with the help of Reiki, coming up in May and June. And there will be much more. Also, I teach a lot of webinars bilingually, parallel in German and in English. So there is a lot of things which I like to share with other people. And I'm traveling a lot, so I will be half a dozen times this year in Spain. We have a big Rainbow Reiki school in Spain and the Canary Islands, and I'm always happy to join my Rainbow Reiki friends over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great. Now, I wanted to, if someone in the U.S. wanted to take your school, do they have to go to Germany or Spain?
I would be happy if they do, but there are a couple of trained Rainbow Reiki teachers in the United States, and they're also licensed. They take part in the licensing program. There are people in Connecticut who can teach Rainbow Reiki, in the New Orleans area and Los Angeles area. There is Rachel Weller in Los Angeles. There is Marie Marchessault in Connecticut. There is Anjan Weiss in the New Orleans area, for example. And you just can put the Rainbow Reiki USA in Google, and you find their websites. So there are opportunities in the United States to take Rainbow Reiki classes, of course. And people can then, of course, enter also international study program. So there are lots of ways to study Rainbow Reiki in the United States, but also abroad. And I'm building up the webinar training programs, because then people don't have to spend thousands of dollars for traveling, as they can do this from at home. But some things cannot be shared, in my understanding, at least not where the technology today is, without being in touch, without participating in a class where you meet each other. But other things are. So I'm offering a lot of webinars for people who want to study Rainbow Reiki.
Excellent. Now, for some of these webinars, can anyone join?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. Yeah.
And I have an English Rainbow Reiki online practice once a month, which is free. People can just sign up. There's no money involved. And for about an hour, I give Rainbow Reiki energy transmission over distance of the whole world, and also teach about spiritual philosophy. So people like this. Maybe that this is something for some people of this audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, where can someone see the schedule for that? Would that be on walterlübeck.com/de?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it would be walterlübeck.com/en for English. There you have a schedule for the English Rainbow Reiki online practice, and also for the webinars.
Okay, very good. I'll put that one up there. So that people can take advantage of that and enjoy those particular webinars. So now you talk about developing the Reiki business. Now, obviously, you have vast knowledge and experience here, and you Reiki practitioners coming up. You're teaching them about developing a successful Reiki practice. What are some of the main things that you like to point out there?
Yeah. One thing I like to point out is Reiki masters all over the world work together, not against each other. Work together. There are billions of people to heal. And we as Reiki masters, in my understanding, have a kind of responsibility to work together and show people what vibrational medicine, what hands-on healing, spiritual healing can do. So go together on fairs, go together in bookstores, and just show people what Reiki can do. Second thing is that if you want to be successful, you need to do healings in public so people experience what you do. If you just talk about this, if you just make a printed ad, then people will not really understand what you are offering. You need to get in contact, you need to put the hands on the people, and they need to perceive what's going on there. Third thing, even if we do a spiritual business, it is a business. So if you have no idea what you have to do, how to do a proper business, the legal side, the taxes, the organizational side, please take classes about this. There are lots of them around, so you understand how a business runs. Fourth thing, if you want to be successful, make your students successful. My success is the success of my students. As long as you support the success of your students, your school will grow. Because people see you are working for the higher good, not for yourself. And the last point, use Reiki for yourself every day. And if you want to do this with second degree, send Reiki to the higher self and your inner child, because if these spiritual parts of yourself are nourished with Reiki, they can do much more for you, and you will have a lot of, let's say, great things happening to you by chance, but they will start to happen as soon as you give Reiki, distant Reiki, to your higher self and your inner child. I got this concept from Hawaiian Huna in the end of the 80s, and I use Reiki for this. Then with Reiki, it's much easier to do this, and I explain this in detail in my book, Rainbow Reiki.
Oh, the same one you referred to earlier. Yes,
exactly.
Perfect. I'll put that link up as well. Now, I have to say, when I got into Reiki, and I like to read, and I'm reading the books, and I really recognize you as one of the top Reiki experts in the world, along with William Lee Rand and Petra Java Petter. So how it seems like you all had a fairly similar journey, and then at one point you all met. How did that come about?
Oh, well, this was one of these outcomes of me giving Reiki to my higher self, my inner child. Because in the middle of the 90s, I thought I would really love to know more about the heritage of Usui, what Usui really did. And so I gave this intention into my contacts to my higher self. And guess what? I got an invitation to a Reiki event, a round table discussion and in public in Berlin. But this event never happened. But while phoning with the organizer told me, do you know that there is a German guy living in Japan and he does research on the roots of Reiki? I said, hell no idea. Who's that? Oh, he said his name is Frank Petter. Never heard of this guy. But he had a phone number. So I phoned Ajava, and at that time, his main business was a language school, an English language school in Japan. I think in Hokkaido he was, Sapporo. And we had a 2-hour phone call. You don't want to know the money I had to pay for this, but it was well invested, because it was like we knew each other since, childhood whatsoever. We had a really good talk, and he had written a book about Reiki. And in Japan, no publishing company wanted to have this book. So I thought, come on, this must be published. So I asked the publishing house where my books are being published, Windfeld Verlag in Germany, would you like to publish a book about Reiki, about the roots of Reiki? They said, oh yeah, of course we will. And so Ajava published his first book in the Western world in Germany. through the Windfeld Verlag. I was very happy that he did, because this started the hands-on Reiki research. And this is why we know so much more about Usui's and Hayashi's proceedings, what they thought about Reiki, how they were doing spiritual work with the students, and so on. Today, we would never have run into Shioko Yamaguchi without Ajahn Petter, He found out about them in Kyoto, and so the Jikiden Reiki movement started, and a bunch of other books which he produced. Now, Ajahn got in contact with William Lee Rand. I did too. William visited me in my home in Germany, and we had a great time on the Extensteiner power spot, the spiritual power spot close by. And then there was the idea that I would be invited to the international Reiki gatherings he organized at that time, I think it was Michigan. Later it was in the state of New York. And so I was there for a couple of years, giving classes about Rainbow Reiki, about Aura Chakra Reading, lots of different classes, and also giving drumming sessions and healing people and giving spiritual counseling and so on. So I was busy, I think, for 4 or 5 years. And so we developed close connection, and I traveled with William Lee Rand and Adava also to India in the year 2000, it was, to the first Asian Reiki Congress in New Delhi, in the Ashok Hotel. That was quite an event. And we also did a trip to Rishikesh at that time. And when I was in Rishikesh, meditating on the banks of the river Ganga, I got contact to the river goddess Ganga, and she gave me a wonderful present, which I now unpack since 18 years, for a special kind of spiritual radionics. So pictures which do energy work for you. So this is how William and Ajahn and me came together. And later I visited also William in his home in Hawaii. And this is where Sandra, my wife, and me got married on Maui.
Wow, I didn't know that. See, that's excellent. Great. So, we're, real quick, we have a couple of minutes. Where do you see the future of Reiki? Where's Reiki going?
Well, that is an interesting question, and I'm thinking about this question since many years, because I'm very much interested in a bright future for Reiki. I don't want Reiki to disappear into nothing, because everything is Reiki. No, everything is not Reiki. It's like Tai Chi Chuan is one thing, and Qigong is another thing, and yoga is another thing. So I think that there will be more and more people being interested, like it already started during the last decade or so, in knowing more about the roots of Reiki, and then going further, developing the Reiki practice into a professional skill. So I see associations coming up in many countries who organize and represent the people who work professionally with Reiki, teach Reiki professionally, use Reiki professionally, that there will be interactions with official medicine more and more, because there's more and more research being done, so it gets more acceptable. With Rainbow Reiki, we had already a pilot study last year in Spain about reducing stress and pain with the means of Rainbow Reiki, which fantastic results. And I know that there are much more studies about Reiki already done or in progress. And I think that professionalizing Reiki is what we all need to do, because this is such a wonderful healing art. And this is also one way I pay respect to the heritage of Usui, taking what he did serious, trying to understand it the best I can, and go further. Because this is what everybody has done with yoga, Tai Chi Chuan, Qigong, Ayurveda, and so on. Ayurveda of today is not the same Ayurveda like it was 1,000 years ago. It has developed. Yoga is not the same. You have different ways of yoga which have not been there 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 20 years ago. And this is what we need to do. We need to honor and respect our heritage, our fundamentals, and also look into the future. What do the people need from us? What is it we can give? And make the Rainbow Reiki, the Reiki package, which we received from Usui and Tayashi and Takata, a bigger package, which we can pass on. So people who have special problems can receive special attention, special help. So I want to professionalize Reiki, but on the other hand, I also want to help people to understand what Reiki is, who at the moment have no idea that it even exists. You see, when you are part of the Reiki world, you think everybody knows Reiki. But, well, 99.9% of the whole population of the world have no idea what Reiki is. So we still have a lot to do. One of my students, Paloma Müller, she is currently in Mongolia teaching Rainbow Reiki there. And for her, being since about 20 years in Germany, it was like a shock that nearly nobody in Mongolia knew about Reiki. So she is really breaking the ice there and talking to the shamans, which are there in plenty, teaching them how to do hands healing, how to do miracle healing with Rainbow Reiki. So I have great respect for this, and I think that we need a lot of people who break the ice and go into areas of our society where Reiki is unknown. But they need it. We need Reiki in prisons. We need it in hospitals. We need it as skilled social workers have and nurses, because it's so very useful when you take care for people and for pets. You know, we have lots of pets. We have 6 cats, 2 dogs, and I love the pets. The pets need today also support, and Reiki could be such a great support for their health. And it helps the people and the animals to get into a heartfelt resonance, you know. So the animal and the people interaction can be promoted by the means of Reiki. So this is just some of these things which I found important for the future of Reiki.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Walter. I appreciate you. I know it's super early there. I think it's around 4 a.m. So I appreciate you being on the show. Beautiful show, and we'll definitely look at have you back on the show really, really soon. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Appreciate you minding us on the time change. And we'll be back next week, 6 p.m. Pacific. Namaste.